I feel like the entirety of Arcane can be summarized by that one piece of audio from the Cartoon Network series Chowder.
And nothing can go wrong. Oh no, it all went wrong.
Oh, this is good coffee. Arcane Season 2 has been out for roughly 6 months now, and if I'm being honest, I still don't know how to feel about it. On the one hand, this show is a beautiful piece of media, and I'm honored to have had the pleasure of experiencing it. On the other hand, if you pressed a gun to my forehead and asked me to explain Mel's subplot to the layperson, that bullet would turn my brain into a plate of scrambled eggs.
You aren't my brother.
I've seen some people claim that Season 2 was rushed, which is an absolutely buck-wild thing to say about a show that has an entire funeral sequence with hand-drawn charcoal backgrounds. This series reeks of effort. That's why it's so beloved. Are some of the character arcs and subplots underbaked? Sure. But raw cookie dough is still scrumptious. And Arcane at its worst is still really fucking good.
I'm always with you. Even when we're worlds apart.
Season 1 was so spectacular that it ironically doomed its successor to bear the unfortunate designation of underwhelming follow-up. This isn't to say that Arcane's second half lacks brilliant moments. Rather, the show's first 3 acts are a masterpiece, whereas the subsequent 9 episodes are merely masterpiece adjacent.
Well, it's all going to shit.
Act 1 is easily the most cohesive. These episodes still adhere to Arcane's core storytelling sensibilities and philosophical tenets. The plot is engaging because it's driven by characters and the choices they make, as opposed to the later installments, where the plot tends to drive the characters in some really weird directions.
A storm is coming, the likes of which Piltover, perhaps Runeterra itself, has never faced.
Series co-creator Christian Link revealed in an interview with Screen Rant that they'd always intended on making 2 seasons. No more, no less. And this fact is fascinating, to say the least. Trilogies are the most common form of storytelling en masse, primarily because of capitalism, but also because the hero's journey can easily be split into thirds. Each installment fits within the larger narrative, whilst also having its own Inception-esque journey within the journey. Pure duologies are something of a rarity in our content-driven media landscape, which is honestly a shame. When executed properly, these works can highlight deeper concepts such as parallelism, duality, and nature's inherent desire for symmetry. They're a call and response, a tale of cyclicality and turnabout.
That which inspires us to our greatest good is also the cause of our greatest evil.
Arcane Season 2 does address these ideas to varying degrees of success. Each of our protagonists becomes an inverted version of themselves here. The man of progress has to dismantle his greatest invention, the wise father is turned into an evil, mindless beast, and the rebellious soldier becomes a dictatorial figure who constantly abdicates her better judgment to someone else.
We are kin.
The fuck you are.
Some of these moments are subtle, like Savika preaching the same values she once ridiculed Vander for upholding in Some Mysteries Are Better Left Unsolved.
We don't hand over our people.
Others are integral to the narrative's foundation, like Jinx becoming an older sibling and Violet joining the Enforcers.
Never thought my sister would turn bluebelly.
Never thought mine would orphan kids.
These shifts in perspective underscore some of the characters' worst qualities, especially regarding how they interact with others. At its heart, Arcane is a series about the effects we have on people, be they intentional or unintentional. The connections we make can inspire us to be better, or they can dismantle us from the inside out. We have very little control over how we're perceived, and if we're not secure in our own identities, then these presumptions can override our basic understanding of ourselves.
We build our own prisons, bars forged of oaths, codes, commitments, walls of self-doubt and accepted limitation. We inhabit these cells, these identities, and call them us.
Though these suppositions may feel accurate, they're incapable of telling your complete story. Strangers are always biased, and they're not remotely invested in your personal development.
You expect me to believe Jinx, the master criminal, wears pants like that?
What's wrong with my pants?
You look like a half-eaten circus tent.
This isn't to say that you should completely disregard someone's outside observations. Everyone has a lesson to teach, but most of us don't know how to be good students. We surrender the hard choices and expect someone else to act in our best interest, but no one can tell you who you are. That's your responsibility, difficult though it may be.
I think the cycle only ends when you find the will to walk away.
The wheel of time is utterly indifferent to us. Its gears are always churning, crushing us under the weight of unmet expectations and failed relationships. Walking away from this endless, self-perpetuating loop is not cowardice. It's a tremendous act of bravery. The mental shackles we chain to ourselves can only be discarded once the jail itself gets dismantled. And after you finally break this hellish cycle, your journey to self-actualization can truly begin.
One day, I'm gonna ride in one of those things.
The show's thematic through line is also sufficiently transposed. Whereas Season 1 focused on deconstructing false dichotomies, Season 2 explores the consequences of succumbing to them. All of Arcane's antagonists speak in absolutes, and each of them weaponizes a philosophical concept known as sophistry. This term originated in ancient Greece, where speech served as a person's primary rhetorical technique. Sophists were denoted as well-rounded teachers, but they've since gained a negative reputation in modern circles. They like to use arbitrary and fallacious arguments to deceive their subjects. Their reasonings are superficially sound, but intellectually dishonest, cleverly crafted casuistries that are rooted in fraudulence.
People deserve to choose their own fates.
Choice is false.
Sophists operate as if every choice is a foregone conclusion, thus depriving reality of its complexities.
Everyone else betrays us.
Truth is the greatest delusion of them all. A wolf has no mercy.
Silco, Ambessa, and LeBlanc's convictions have been chiseled in stone. Their stances are steadfast and immovable. They are not open to outside persuasion. They've each reduced the world to a simpler form and seek to imbue this viewpoint onto their respective protégés, but simplicity is not synonymous with good. Nuance is the bread and butter of humanity, and to act as if one choice takes precedence above all others is to become an object in the universe at the mercy of its circumstances.
Arrests require cause. What greater cause is there than returning peace to this city?
A sophist's ability to convince someone is the greatest tool in their arsenal, but their assumption of correctness only exists within a vacuum. The lies supporting their logic lose their potency in the presence of honest evidence.
We tracked some sort of new chem weapon down here. A bloodthirsty, murderous beast. What are you doing here?
Trying to save my dad.
Binaries may be easy to comprehend, but life is often messy and complicated, devoid of obvious answers and riddled with contradictory truths. A black and white worldview is indeed seductive, but maturity exists between shades of gray. In order to grow as individuals, we have to reject the false conclusions espoused to us by malefactors and embrace existence's intrinsic incongruities.
We can't erase our mistakes. None of us.
Speaking of incongruities, let's talk about some of Season 2's shortcomings. All 3 acts fail to deliver on multi-purpose scenes. Purpose, as defined by Dan Olson in his video essay dissecting Tuca and Birdie, is a narrative construct. It encompasses things like characterization, world building, theme, plot, pacing, and aesthetic fulfillment. It's okay for a scene to only have one purpose, but in order to elevate a story from functional to efficient, a writer will often combine 2 or 3 of these elements when drafting certain segments so as to make these moments more effective and impactful. Arcane's first season fully grasped this notion. None of its scenes can be described as one note. Each moment is intricate and multifaceted, rich with subtext, yet still remarkably clear with its overall intentionality.
Bit of advice. Don't threaten the guy who pours the drinks.
Most of the scenes in Season 2 lack this level of depth. Moments are utilitarian and serviceable. They feel significantly less sophisticated, as if the writers were simply checking boxes off of their script outlines instead of maximizing each minute to its fullest potential.
What is my purpose?
You pass butter.
Oh my god.
In order to fully demonstrate my point, I need to compare and contrast the show's 2 sex scenes.
There's gotta be a better way.
Afraid not. Mel and Jace consummate their relationship in the middle of Season 1, Episode 5. It is the culmination of all their interactions thus far, many of which were predatory in nature. Mel has groomed Jace to be a political weapon at her disposal by enabling his research, elevating his status, and guiding him through the treacherous waters of Piltover's high society. Were her motivations insidious? Absolutely. But here on this channel, we support women's wrongs.
These people have nothing new to offer me. The only one actually worth my time is him. The golden boy.
This scene delineates a major shift in Jace's character arc. Up until now, he's been an amalgamation of competing ideologies. A man of science trying to create magic. The face of Piltover's future, constantly deferring to its original founder. Even his family sigil is contradictory in nature. Hammers are tools that are in equal parts constructive and destructive. His idealism is in constant conflict with the world's harsher realities.
My father put hammers in the hands of the people, and they built this magnificent city.
Meanwhile,
Jace is an ordinary man thrust into extraordinary circumstances. He's an inventor, not a politician. But Mel's tutelage convinces him to be the man people expect him to be, rather than the person he actually is.
You know, Counselor Madara's right. The Hex Gates are only the beginning. In fact, we're currently looking for new partners in our Hex Tech research.
Interspliced with all of this is Victor's initial merging with the Hex Core. His blood penetrates the device and morphs into something beautiful, yet terrifying, irrevocably altering both the universe's fabric and his genetic makeup. The otherworldly visuals aren't just pretty, they're essential. A wealth of information is economically conveyed to us through this legitimately artful stylistic departure. This event kickstarts his assimilation with the Arcane and distorts his ultimate aspiration. Improving lives is his main goal, but innovation comes at a cost, and Victor doesn't realize the toll until it's too late.
This guy? No, that can't.
It's noteworthy that these two events happen concurrently because Jace and Victor's character arcs are wholly twined together. They only became successful because they found each other, but the duo slowly drifts apart over the course of Season 1. Jace is more suited for the spotlight, whereas Victor keeps to the shadows. The former is celebrated and famous, the latter is a forgotten footnote. Their affection for one another is boundless, but external circumstances continually manage to widen the divide. This moment definitively sends the men careening down different trajectories. One becomes completely obsessed with worldly concerns. The other seeks to supersede them entirely. Both men are evolving, but neither development is positive. In just under 3 minutes, these elaborate bits of characterization, plotting, theming, pacing, and aesthetic fulfillment are deftly delivered to the audience during what would otherwise be a cringe-inducing sex scene.
You think all sex scenes are cringe-inducing?
That's because they are! What do you mean this is how babies are made? I leapt out of my mother's head like Athena burst forth from Zeus's skull! My point being, this scene is inextricable from the entirety of Arcane. The Kate Vi sex scene from Season 2, Episode 8 isn't.
Sorry to say, you've grown a bit predictable.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Why did we as a fandom settle on this as their ship name? Violin was right there, y'all. I know this scene means a lot to people. I myself hold it near and dear to my heart. The last thing I want to do is devalue its broader significance to the LGBTQ community. But from a writing standpoint, it kinda sucks.
Do you have a question, Kelly?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions. Number 1, how dare you?
This scene murders the show's pacing, and its placement within the narrative is utterly baffling. This is not the time nor the place to get down and dirty, gals.
There's no good version of me.
What are you gonna do? Break the cycle.
Even the accompanying piece of music has a few problems. America doesn't exist in this universe! This scene is not completely devoid of characterization, but the material that is here leaves a lot to be desired. Vi has spent her whole life putting other people first. Her sense of higher obligation is admirable, but the weight of the world was unfairly placed on her shoulders at a very young age, and the trauma she underwent only reinforced her commitment to being responsible. Gee, Jenny, what's your favorite horror movie? All 44 minutes of the base violence necessary for change. The Haunting of Bly Manor comes in at a close second, though.
People do, don't they? Mix up love and possession. Yeah, they do.
Vi, more than any other character in the cast, deserves to be happy, but doing the devil's tango in her sister's jail cell doesn't exactly feel like the natural conclusion to that story arc.
I don't fucking care.
Do what you came here to do.
Caitlyn's authoritarian autumn is one of the more interesting bastardization plotlines I've seen. Her good intentions are supplanted by a lifetime's worth of subconscious prejudices, and she lets her hatred for Jinx color her opinion of all fisherfolk, Vi included.
I keep telling myself that you're different, but you're not. It's her blood in your veins.
Then why are you the one acting like her?
Whenever a character loses an eye in a piece of media, it's often symbolic for them gaining some form of deeper wisdom or perspective. Ironic imagery at its finest. The one exception to this rule is, of course, Xander Harris from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who is about as insightful as a Rupi Kaur poem. But I digress.
I've gotten us this far.
But not without a price.
Xander.
I'm trying to see your point here, Buff. But I guess it must be a little bit to my left.
Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
Caitlyn's desire for vengeance literally blinds her to the suffering she's caused, and her resulting sense of guilt is immense.
No amount of good deeds can undo our crimes!
Letting go of this vendetta is the next obvious step in Caitlyn's journey, but her leaving Jinx's jail cell unattended is less about her faith in Vi's judgment as it is a facilitating factor for their imminent, coupling.
I know what you are.
Aside from aesthetic fulfillment, this scene just doesn't accomplish much. You could fast forward through it and not miss a damn thing. At least it's endlessly memeable.
You really think I needed all the guards at the Hex Gates?
If I had written Arcane, it wouldn't be nearly as good, but I personally would have swapped this moment with their kiss and finally got the name right. The montage set to Hellfire is excellent, a bold graphic statement that successfully propels the plot forward. But it could have been further elevated if Kate and Vi's rampage through the Undercity was accentuated with clips of them physically cementing their attraction to one another and losing themselves in the process. Both women are grieving, and neither of them are handling it particularly well. Parallel the Lane's destruction with their spiraling mental states. Highlight the toxic elements that are developing within their situationship. This way, their impending breakup feels less like an unprecedented 180 and more like an inevitable punch to the gut. Conversely, a sweet and tender kiss would have made more sense in Killing as a Cycle. Kate and Vi have both grown separately as individuals, and Jinx no longer haunts their relationship. A moment of sincere gentleness would have kept them both in character, helped the show's pacing, and marked a new beginning for the couple. But hey, what do I know? Season 2's lack of purpose also extends to the cast's new additions. These characters only exist to accomplish a singular narrative function. Isha is designed to develop Jinx, Lest is here to be Mel's informant, and I had to Google this guy's name.
Are you just here to waste my time?
I wrote roughly 6 pages worth of analysis geared towards fixing Maddie's character before I realized that just needed to be its own minisode, so if you want to hear those thoughts, please consider pledging to my Patreon. Patrons receive special perks such as early access to videos, exclusive content, and my eternal gratitude, because capitalism is a rat race, and there's no way off this hamster wheel. Far and away, Season 2's worst sin is setup and payoff.
The Kiraman key? No, I'm not. I don't deserve it.
Ah yes, the Kiraman key, the key that was expertly established last season as an integral aspect to her family's identity, the key to Caitlyn's future, and the hallmark of her mother's legacy. What the fuck is the Kiraman key?
We, whose decisions led us here, will carry them forever.
Wow, Savika's a councilwoman now. Surely this moment was organically built up to over the course of 9 episodes and serves as a satisfactory conclusion to her character arc. She's going to get outvoted on every single issue.
Oh, this is quite troubling.
Echo's tree is easily the most egregious dropped subplot. It's literally his inciting incident, yet we aren't given any real resolution to this story. The firelights are the embodiment of hope in the Undercity, a beacon in the darkness that is everyday life for people from the trenches. They reject both Hextech and Shimmer, two insidious innovations that reap harm wherever they take root. Yet despite their best efforts, the firelights still can't escape the outside world's corruption.
But this pattern, how could it be there and here?
The tree's degradation is the distillation of Piltover and Zaun's sociopolitical conflict. Topside's actions don't exist in a bubble. They view themselves as inherently more valuable than the people living in the lanes. Hence why the Hexgate's failsafe was built hundreds of miles underground. Echo put it best when he said, "You say we should feel like we're all one people, but whenever it rains, we're the ones that get wet."
We're miles from the main fissures.
These are the same utility ducts that carry our water and facilitate our ventilation, and that would explain it affecting the tree.
The sequence set to Ashes and Blood is one of the greatest moments in the entire series. Woodkid's composition is perfect, all the transitions are on point, and this scene delivers on a heart-stopping fight to the death that's been foreshadowed since the opening titles. And then an entire act goes by before we see Echo and Heimerdinger again.
Where are you? I'm over here.
Oh, I'm so going to get canceled for this. I don't care about Echo and Powder's relationship.
Well, I feel sheepish.
I'm not a shipper by nature. I love a good romance as much as the next gal, but I can count the number of fictional couples I'm invested in on one hand. See again The Haunting of Bly Manor.
I'm actually pretty in love with you, it turns out.
Time Bomb is a perfectly fine pairing in concept, but the two of them barely interact with each other during Season 1. Echo shares more screen time with Clagger than anyone else pre-time skip.
Clagger!
Hey, little man. Play on the horn to prove that it haunts me.
Their fight in The Boy Savior was so impactful because of the visual storytelling on display. These images enabled us to surmise the implicit details of their history that we, the audience, weren't privy to. This scene also demonstrated a key difference in their characters. Echo has learned from his previous mistakes. Jinx hasn't. She's still emotionally and mentally frozen in time, a prisoner of the past who can't move forward. The Firelight is an adult. The Crow is still a child. The music video for Enemy does show us a few more snippets from their childhood, but even then, their interactions are minimal. Thank God Season 2 soundtrack dropped in November, because I would not have been able to live with myself if an Imagine Dragons song made it onto my Spotify Wrapped in the year of our Lord 2024. Pretend Like It's the First Time is both the best and worst episode in the entire series. Echo's day in the alternate universe is heart-wrenching. He's thrust into a perfect world where almost everyone he loves is alive and well, yet he walks away from heaven to tend to his personal hell.
Always a dance with you.
His dance with Powder is absolutely stunning. The animation is rendered in 4 frames per second to allude to his new special ability. The accompanying music divulges the inner duality of his relationship with Jinx. And Heimerdinger's sacrifice is one of my favorite scenes to come out of Season 2. Hence why it breaks my heart that Echo didn't write his name on that slip of paper during the finale.
Since I've met you, lad, I've truly lived.
What?
Back in a wink.
No! Heimerdinger, wait!
But Jenny, Professor Heimerdinger is a Yordle, and Yordles are immortal. He just respawned to his homeworld. I don't play League of Legends! If it's not in the show, then I don't care. Let me mourn my favorite Ratman in peace.
Let him turn.
If this episode were a piece of fanfiction uploaded to AO3, it would have received a kudos, a bookmark, and a comment from me. But it's not fanfiction. It's canon. And I have a hard time believing things would be quite so neat in a Hextech-free world. Shimmer was about to flood the lanes, Caitlyn's death would have reaped greater consequences, and Vander's crappy apology wouldn't have convinced me to loan him a cup of sugar, let alone give up a years-long blood feud.
Greatest thing we can do in life is find the power to forgive.
Then again, Silco did adopt the first child to show him a modicum of affection, so maybe my assumption is out of line. Wait a minute. Episode 5 implies that he knew Vi and Powder were Felicia's kids, yet he still wanted to kill them.
Hello, little girl. Where's your sister?
I take it back. This is the worst scene in all of Arcane. It ruins the timeline, devalues the power of Vander's epiphany on the bridge, and turns Silco into a completely irredeemable monster.
What's the point if we can't raise an ankle biter or two?
A few moments later.
Speaking of irredeemable monsters, let's acknowledge the Warwick in the room. If I had a nickel for every time Vander died in Arcane, I'd have 15 cents, which is frankly 10 cents too many. I can only watch this man perish so many times before I become numb to the novelty of it, Riot. So yeah, Arcane Season 2. What a ride. I know this essay is a bit disjointed and unfocused. Trust me when I say that no one is more upset about this fact than me. I haven't been in a good headspace lately. 2025 has drained my energy levels in unfathomable ways. Burnout is a bitch, y'all. It didn't occur to me until late one night that this was the first new script I've worked on since October of last year. Everything else I've released over the past few months started as an incomplete project draft from 2024 or earlier. This isn't because I've lacked new ideas. Quite the opposite, really. I've just lacked the motivation and self-confidence to get things done. I spent nearly 500 hours working on this document because nothing I wrote felt satisfactory. The cursor started to taunt me halfway through, and all I wanted to do was curl up in bed and disappear for a while. The longer I went without finishing something, the more fickle I became. In my extensive bank of bad habits, perfectionism ranks fairly high, but fittingly enough, Arcane offers some great advice on this front.
There is no prize to perfection, only an end to pursuit.
This video is not flawless, and neither is Arcane Season 2. But they don't need to be. Perfectionism is the death of productivity. Arcane is magnificent, and even though I have a ton of critiques for its second half, I still love this show. Jace is right. Imperfections are beautiful.
They made you who you are. An inseparable piece of everything I admired about you.
In the pursuit of great, these showrunners did really, really good. And at the end of the day, that's what's important. Who cares if Singed escaped any form of narrative punishment despite being one of the objectively worst people in the entire series?
You do.
I really do. His philosophy is so interesting, but that man is responsible for almost everyone else's misery.
Why does anyone commit acts others deem unspeakable? For love.
This video is brought to you by my patrons. I would especially like to thank Madison McAllister, Anna Somerville, Garrett Van Vorst, and Tyler Watkins for their continued support. This channel is my ultimate passion project, and words cannot express the gratitude I feel for your belief in me. Until next time, take care.